Beyond permits and registrations, there are certain areas of compliances that a business needs to take care of. I feel it is crucial for you to understand this in very detail. Let's hear from our subject matter experts about the same.
So being a product guy, tech guy, and even somebody who can do sales and marketing, my challenge has always been on the compliance side. So I've never focused on those things, but it takes a long time to, fix things later on. And compliance is one thing that no investor would invest in a company if you're not compliant with the local regulations. So my advice to all entrepreneurs is right from day zero, no matter how small you are, you might think this is not important, but make sure you're compliant with all the rules and regulations. For that, at every stage of the company, have a separate line item in the budget for compliance, whether it means to hire a person or hire a consultant, company secretary, a CA, maybe not full-time, maybe you get somebody as a consultant on a part-time basis, or to outsource some of this. So I would say invest in compliance because there's no other way out. So right from day zero, do not think that you're too small for something like this, because there are, and I've seen the rules, Indian laws changing, company laws changing over the last several years, and they've gotten really, really tough, for simple things.
Compliance is one of the key building blocks to a successful business. What compliance really does is it builds a process, and in any organizational structure, whether internally or whether looking at it externally, compliance sets the discipline, it sets a certain motion to the organization. Very often entrepreneurs, when they set off on this journey, don't realize the importance of compliance for very obvious reasons. It's a smaller ecosystem they operate in. But with passage of time, and as you should be trained, you become that large Facebook, in as short a span as is possible. You suddenly realize all your external partners, be it new investors, banks, new joint venture partners, they who are coming from a more mature world suddenly start focusing on compliance, and that's one of the checks they kind of engage in when they choose you as their partner. Non-compliance often leads to a discount. In which way? Number one, it's not the money. It's the management time that you spend in rectifying it, which then makes your other businesses suffer. Second, you obviously have the monetary penalties. And third, the reputational cost. We're getting more into an internet world, and you're seeing more government agencies, more media putting out names of people who are non-compliant. And when you kind of add all these three factors and you ask yourself, what is the cost of non-compliance? It's really not worth even thinking in that direction.
The other aspect you need to keep in mind is once your company is incorporated, doesn't mean that the work is over as far as the company is concerned. There are annual compliances, there are quarterly compliances, there are board meetings that need to be held. This may sound very overpowering, but the fact is that they are not that as long as you have proper advice and someone to help you maintain the books. As you will have an accountant who will help you maintain your accounts, you will also need to have a company secretary. You don't need to have a full-time company secretary to start with. You can have an advisor, a law firm, a company secretarial firm that will help you maintain your corporate records and make the filings. Because the minute you don't make these filings, you end up being non-compliant. So good corporate governance from day one is very critical. Ensure that you are maintaining the correct standards and you are making all the filings on time.
Corporate compliance also goes a long way when you start attracting the floor investment. When you go to your venture capital investor and say, give me that $5 million, right? This is the first thing he goes into diligencing, is where is the compliance? Are these records right? Is this company all about what they actually say? That's where books and records gets important. That's where audited numbers get important. And that's where the compliance comes in. At the early stages, most entrepreneurs are thinking of having lesser people on their rolls. But lesser people on the rolls doesn't mean they're able to roll out services correctly. And therefore that means entering into relationships with contract labor agencies. So who are these people? So contract labor is a growing concept in India. And for that purpose, when you enter into a contract labor contract, you need to make sure your contract labor agency has the correct contract labor registrations, absent which the duties which the contract labor agency owes to those laborers who are coming to your premises falls on you. The whole purpose of entering into contract labor contracts is to make sure that the primary responsibility of compliance is taken by these contract labor agencies. Third could be nature of the labor registrations. These would typically relate to provident fund registrations related to your employees, which are the basic ones. And more often than not, the growing trend is to have contract labor type situations where you need to make sure your agencies that supply to you labor, it could be your canteen boys, it could be your office boy delivering documents, has the right type of contract labor registrations.
Now the next thing also you need to be aware of is that if you have any online component of your business, you will be encountered with 2, 3, 4 different things that you need to keep in mind. Like you have a tangible company and its compliances, so online presence also requires certain types of compliances. No regulatory approvals as such, but one is that data privacy and privacy policies and the way you interact with your customers who are going to come to your website is very important. There are laws in this country dealing with how you have to deal with, for example, sensitive personal data, credit card information of your customers. There are rules and regulations for this. You need to have robust terms of use and a robust privacy policy which is easily accessible to people who visit your website. And all of this should be vetted through a lawyer. Today, lawyers look at these policies and give advice to their clients as to what they should contain, because the laws and regulations keep changing, and you need to ensure that your terms of use and privacy policies are up to date and you know with the appropriate parts built into it. The other issue is that if you're going to be selling goods and services online, you will invariably have to enter into contract with payment gateways. There are a number of companies who offer payment gateway services. These companies basically allow your customers to use their credit cards or debit cards to buy your goods and services. You will enter into a contract with them. These payment gateways have their own rules and regulations that they need to comply with from a Reserve Bank of India perspective and other laws and regulations, and they will ask you on your end to also comply with some of these rules and regulations.